Have you ever walked into a medical appointment knowing exactly what your loved one needs, only to leave feeling invisible? That is where Mary found herself. She does her research. She asks very good questions and explains her husband's diagnosis in detail. But the system doesn't seem to understand. One therapist pushed him too hard. Another didn't grasp how dementia really changes his daily life. And even a dentist handed her a treatment plan that ignored his stage of life. Mary told me, I feel like I'm always translating his needs and nobody is listening. Maybe you have been there when people who are supposed to help don't actually see the person you love. Hey, Christian Care Companion, welcome back to Dementia Caregiver Support for Christians, the podcast that helps Bible-believing Christians build communication that honors truth, that cares with steady order, and rests with the contentment in Christ. Today's episode is all about that first pillar, communication. When professionals don't listen, how can you speak in a way that protects your loved one's dignity and helps the system actually hear you? And if you've ever thought, I wish I had a safe place to ask these questions and get real help, that's exactly why we created the Christian Dignicare Society. This is a faith-centered community where Christian caregivers learn how to speak up, how to advocate wisely, and stay grounded when the system feels chaotic. You can join Mary, who is a founding member in this community, for just a one-time investment of $97. And the first 100 people receive a 15-minute welcome walkthrough with me so you can start strong. You can join us at the link in the show notes and take your next faithful step towards confidence and security in how you communicate to and with and for the person you love. If you're not quite ready for that level of security, I invite you to join us in the next Ask the Dementia Coach monthly question and answer session. That link is thinkdifferentdementia.com/ask. Now let's hop into the episode with Mary that is how Christian caregivers can speak up when the healthcare system doesn't listen and protect your loved one's dignity during dementia caregiving. Hey, Miss Mary.
Hi.
How are you? I'm going to ask you again, like I ask everybody, 6 months from now, if your caregiving continues to feel easier, what will that look like for you now?
I don't know.
These questions are very specifically designed because what happens when we're caregiving, Mary, is that we're so mired in the day-to-day, we forget to look up and ahead. And when we keep our eye on the future, we can figure out the problem today.
That's so different from the way I've looked at it. I've been trying to focus staying in today because today is so hard.
And today,
you know what I mean? I tend to want to go to the future, but
today, Mary, is always going to be hard if you don't look to the future.
Yeah, my future would be, I guess, maybe find more resources. So I'm always reading, I'm always learning, I'm always trying to figure the system out when it comes to caregiving. But yeah, the more I understand, the more resources I find, which makes my journey easier.
Okay. So
it'd be understanding it, because I even got the PT like you recommended last time. We had our first one this week, but then I had another therapist call me 2 days after the first one, saying she was going to be by for OT. And I said, no, he can't do two in 1 week. He's not strong enough. That makes no sense. And she didn't understand his journey. So what I learned from that was, even though he's on home care and we have a home care provider, they're not communicating with these therapists his diagnosis. So they don't have any idea what they're really dealing with. So I guess, yeah, it's understanding more of that towards with end care, trying to understand it better so I can be more proactive. Because I run into the same thing with the dental. It was my lack of understanding
Okay. So
of
what
using a new dentist and then them not understanding his position that created more work, not less work.
okay. So might I paraphrase that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you tell me if I got it right, because I'm wrong a lot. Okay.
Okay.
So you said a couple of really good things. You said learning, understanding the system, the resources, understanding the care better, right? And what you implied or said as you were talking was that the system isn't understanding your particular human, right? That they're
Right.
not understanding his particular limitations and challenges that you understand very well. And so I'm going to put it to you in a different way. It's not necessarily that you don't understand the system and the resources, it's that the system doesn't understand you. You need to learn how to communicate his needs to the system in a more effective way. Is that accurate or did I get it wrong?
Well, it's accurate to a degree, although Gary's diagnosed. So I totally am able to give them exactly what his challenges in that parameter if they worked with dementia.
Mhm.
And I'm very surprised that home care would work with people that don't work with dementia, but they have. They've hired people that weren't familiar. But once I told them, they knew a little bit. So yeah, to a degree. I mean, I when I communicate, I wouldn't know what the same with the dental. I sat down with the dentist in the mobile dentistry because I didn't feel he was strong enough to go out and told her specifically what he had. And it's like, I'm not looking for repair like crowns
Mhm.
and all that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure that he doesn't have infection in his system that would conflict with what we already deal with, urinary tract infections, that kind
Mhm.
of thing. I want to make sure dental isn't playing a part of it
Sure.
because so I think he needs an exam. And I'm not sure about x-rays. We've not done x-rays for 2 years because the other dentist he went to had a mother that died from dementia. So she understood what you should and shouldn't do with that disease. But they took x-rays anyway and gave me this plan of care that was really long, and very not good. So
Mhm.
I went back to the regular dentist. She goes, no, don't do any of that. And then she was able to give me some prescription fluoride. You put this on his teeth when they get sensitive and just keep the journey going because she was right. One day it's sensitive, the next day he forgets that he ever complained about it.
Sure.
So it's that game of, is there something there? Is there not something there? Or did something bother him for 1 minute? But the next day it's going to be just fine.
Mhm.
So she understood the journey. So that affected 100% the diagnosis. But I guess I don't know how to find, because he's on home care, to relate to them to get people that understand that so they don't do the wrong thing or so they can really be more helpful. The OT therapist, I told her no, he couldn't do it. If we could do it back to back, when we finished with physical therapy, because they only qualify for 8 for 4 weeks. Then if we could do her therapy after that and keep it going, that would be great. But not to do them at the same time because it would be way too overwhelming for him and too dangerous, I believe. So I guess what I need to ask you now, because we resolved the dental thing, or do you want to finish first?
No, keep
Sorry, my question.
I'm no,
Yes.
I think you're speaking out what you need to speak out to get to where you need to go.
Okay. I with the therapy, for instance, it's created some problems when they leave, in that they're doing physical, but he will try to, what I call, showboat. I don't know if that, you probably have another word for it. So he tries to do things he would never do if nobody's here. And if you weren't right there beside him, it would be scary, because he's fallen twice last month. He's forgotten that he's fallen. In his world, he's strong, he's fine. But they're doing these exercises in which it is working legs, making him feel a little stronger. So now all of a sudden he thinks he can use a cane and not a walker,
Mhm.
which is putting him all out of alignment and puts him at risk. I just see it as he's walking from the chair to the bathroom.
May I ask a quick clarification question?
Yeah.
Are they using the cane with him or are they using the walker?
They
Are they
didn't, neither at first. They were doing all the exercises in the chair, and because he couldn't do one of them, she says, "Oh, try your cane to hold on to that while you're doing it," because he's not stable in any
Uh-huh.
way, shape, or form. So once he was able to have the cane in one hand, he was able to do things that he couldn't do, that she was asking him to do.
Okay.
But no, the walker, she's encouraging him to. Well, yeah, when he went, had to stand up and go to the other end of a room because she was doing some kind of test. He had the walker, and he didn't lock it ever.
Mhm.
He did things without locking it. He sat, and that upset her. So she's using it, yes,
Okay.
to a degree.
Okay. So I think you bring up something very valuable for people to know and understand about therapy, right? So therapists, I love them dearly. We're great at what we do, and sometimes we're dumb. And here's what I mean by that. Medicare and insurance requires, if you think from the therapist's perspective, to always be, quote, improving, which means if he starts with the walker and we can get him to a cane, that's improvement, right? And so what they tend to forget and need lovingly to be reminded, because not all therapists are created equal related to dementia and dementia caregiving. They have a broad global overview of how to help people with dementia, but they're always coming from the medical mindset of improvement, documenting improvement, which means increasing either the skill or decreasing the level of support needed. So if your husband is on a walker and they can advance him to a cane, on paper they show improvement. What they tend to discount out of specifically PT, not meaning to be mean to my physical therapy colleagues, but what they don't always factor in is the following, is the fact that your husband needs to always use one device moving forward, end of discussion, right? If I were you, I think it would be helpful for you to have that conversation with the physical therapist and express to them that you're very appreciative of the fact that he is getting stronger and he's feeling stronger, and that has opened up an unintended consequence of risk for him, because now he believes that he can do these things on his own with a cane. And so it's up to them to set you up for success for the other 23 hours a day that they're not there, and not inadvertently send him double messages of, oh, we're going to use the cane. They see that situation and he now believes I can use the cane. And you're
Right.
standing there observing the two saying, "Ooh, not a good idea," right? And so
Right.
I know it's frustrating, Mary, I get it. Healthcare providers are limited. Yes, they all have the same or similar body of knowledge, but they're all humans with their own interests. And so they're jacks of all trades and have the ability and the skills to help your husband. And they may not be at all dementia specialists.
Right.
And so when a new provider comes in, it could be helpful for you to not just give them the diagnosis, because the diagnosis is just a label. It doesn't tell me how that human on that side is functioning and what it is that you are contending with and what you see. And so ways to communicate with them would be things like, I really appreciated the fact that you guys did this exercise with him because it shows me that he is getting stronger. And after you left, he now believed that he can walk with the cane. And then I'm having to fight him the whole time, which is impacting my ability to provide him the care that he needs.
Right.
We need to find a different way, and that's what they're supposed to be able to do. We need to find a different way for him to work on the skills, the underlying skills, the strength and the balance, etc., without using a cane and only using the device that he is safe on moving forward. He is never going to be safe on a cane. So this is teaching you how to speak healthcare.
And what's the difference with PT and OT?
So, in your husband's specific situation, the benefit of the occupational therapy for him, if I remember our previous conversation correctly, which I think I do, is that there are some environmental concerns about transfers and his ability to transfer from one place to another. Both physical therapy and occupational therapy will work on transfers, but occupational therapy is more suited to looking at how to modify the environment for the most effective, safe transfers, considering you, your frame, his strength, your environment, and all of those factors. We're the queens of being able to make adaptations and modifications to how people actually perform an activity. Physical therapy are the kings and queens of balance and strength and how far he's walking or the quality of his gait, those kinds of things. Occupational therapy, if you want to think of physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech therapy in a line, right? Physical therapy is more the bigger gross movements, like I said, the balance, those things. Speech therapy on the other extreme is more speaking and thinking processes and speech and swallowing in dementia. Occupational therapy is like straddles the fence between both and can do components of both. So we look at it in a more holistic view, and our background in education include the thinking side of it, which means with dementia, we have more that we can bring sometimes to the table than PT. PT will know what dementia is, but unless they have taken specialty certifications and classes, they may not necessarily always know how to incorporate the thinking side into this other bucket. So I do think it's still like I hear what you're saying about his abilities, his strength, and I do think it would be worth considering, maybe even asking if they could do just a trial but to not necessarily, but like to for sure say to them, I want PT coming on a Tuesday and OT coming on a Friday. And so you build in 3 days in the weekend so that it's not, I know how therapists are, my schedule says I can come see him on Monday and PT's schedule says, oh, I'm showing up on Monday too. And the reality is that sets him up for failure, right?
Right.
But you can say to them, this is how we need to do this. And it's up to you to help direct his care and say, I do want us to try. Can we do a 2-week trial? They cannot be back to back. They cannot be Monday, Tuesday. They need to be Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday. How are you going to make that happen? Because they should be able to do that.
Right, right. I already did push back. She wanted to do a Friday. She said, "Oh, Fridays are my day," and it's like, I've got a mobile dentist coming Friday. You can't
Right.
come Friday because we can't do both at the same day. It's way too overwhelming for him. And so she goes, "Oh, okay, I'll try next Tuesday." So I know I had to be firm on what he can and can't do, and and she was able to look at her schedule and find an alternative for me, which was great. But I guess I get really frustrated because some of the things I see her do probably are 100% correct in her field. But I know from what I've read what Parkinsonism does to them leaning forward, to their gait. And she's actually training him to lean forward to get up because he can't get up without doing a lot of rocks. And so she's training him to lunge forward. And in my mind, I'm thinking, this is all wrong with what he's doing. He's going to fall even more. But at the same time, he leans back to try to counteract that kind of naturally. So maybe she sees that and she's trying to overcome it. But so I'm just trying to not say anything and watch what she does with him. And she gives me exercises for him. But I was real frustrated when it's like I know what he's diagnosed with. I know his behaviors, and I'm surprised they don't know because it seems like the therapy would be specific to that disease, but
And it
I
should
don't
be.
think it is.
Let me ask one last clarification question. When he has fallen, when has that occurred? Was he
Huh?
standing when he fell?
Yes,
Okay. So
both times.
I want you to think through for yourself when you go from sit to stand spontaneously, when you watch somebody go from sit to stand, you have to lean all the way forward to get the weight up off of your bottom. People do not fall going from sit to stand and leaning forward. People fall when they're up on their feet.
Right.
They're different
Okay.
mechanisms. And,
Okay.
and so he is going to be more likely to lean back than he is to lean forward. If
Yeah.
he leans forward too far in the chair, he's likely not going to topple out of the chair. Does it happen? Yes, not often. If he's
Right.
standing and he leans forward, we have a protective mechanism to take a step. If we lean backwards when we stand, we fall over because we don't step backwards necessarily. So he's actually probably safer to actually lean a little bit more forward because his natural tendency is to come back.
Okay. Thank you.
I would give it a couple more weeks and see with the repetitive training what happens. Okay?
Yeah.
So what's one thing that you can try this next week?
Communicate with the therapist.
Okay. I know it's hard and I know we expect them to know everything. You know your husband better than they ever will.
Yeah.
And so um a lot of the squeakier wheel Mary that you can be, the better. The better care
Mhm.
he will get. And I
Thank
know it's
you.
probably not your personality to be the squeaky wheel. And so consider it from this perspective. You've been tasked to be his advocate now because he can't talk for himself. And so your role is right now to be protector, and educate them about him until you see that they have the skills that they need in order to do the best for him. There's nothing wrong with you being his advocate. I appreciate families being advocates way more than not, because I don't know your person when I come in as well as you do. And then if they push back, tell them to tell you why they're saying what they're saying.
Okay.
Tell me why you say what you're doing is the way to go. This is what I see. This is what I know. You tell me, you explain to me and tell me why clinically this is a better option, and give that a try.
Okay.
All right, sweet lady. It's good seeing you
Thank you.
here. Wonderful.
Nice to
Now,
be here.
people who are really benefiting from the community are the people who joined earlier on before they need it,
Yep.
and that have been active and are participating in the community, because then they already know what questions to ask and they have a place to come, and they're not constantly wondering, what do I need to do? How do I need to do it? So people listening are interested in tapping into or learning about the community. I'd invite you to just go to the website, thinkdifferentdementia.com. There's a link for you to schedule a 20-minute call. There's no pressure. I'll serve you regardless of whether you join the community or not. But it is a way for you to take this relationship a little deeper, a little bit more hands-on support, because really the research also shows it's longitudinal support over time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. I would highly recommend Lizette. She's awesome.
I see. I appreciate that endorsement.